It's 2 in the morning.
The restaurant smells like cool metal, stale wine, and the bleach they just used on the floors.
18 hours on my feet. My back is one solid, aching knot.
I'm standing alone in my kitchen, but I'm not really alone. I've got my phone in my pocket, and on it, the Find My Friends app. I installed it last year after she lost her keys in a cab.
A handy little thing. I didn't open it out of jealousy. Jealousy is hot, it's alive, it's an emotion. I don't have the energy for that anymore.
I opened it because yesterday, when Anna came home, supposedly from a meeting with the lease lawyers, she didn't smell like a dusty office. She didn't smell like her usual Jo Malone perfume.
She smelled like ozone. You know that clean, sharp, electric smell right after a thunderstorm? And sandalwood. Faint, warm, woody. Not my smell.
I always smell like garlic, thyme, and the open flame.
Tonight, she said she'd be home by midnight.
She had a dinner with investors.
I look at the screen. A little blue dot with her name on it. She isn't home, in our apartment upstairs. She isn't at the restaurant where she supposedly had that dinner. She's at the Peninsula Hotel. $1,200 a night, if you get a good rate. The dot is perfectly still.
She's been there for 3 hours.
3 hours and 20 minutes. I expected to feel anger.
That familiar, searing rage a chef feels when a sauce breaks right before service.
But I felt nothing. Except cold. That ice-cold, sterile clarity that hits you when you're looking at a hopelessly overcooked ribeye. You don't get mad at it. You just know it's ruined. That's it. It's dead. You're not going to serve it. You throw it out. You can't afford to feed a customer poison. The blue dot shimmered. It started to move across the map. She's coming home. 15 minutes. I have 15 minutes to decide who I'm going to be when she walks through that door. I go to the steel sink and methodically scrub the smell of the kitchen off my hands. I use the stiff brush. The smell of garlic and onion is too strong. Too honest. It would ruin everything. I wipe my hands on a clean apron. And I wait. The restaurant door creaks open. The one that leads to the service stairs, up to our apartment. Anna comes in. She looks frightened.
Her hair is a mess, her expensive coat is unbuttoned, even though it's a freezing Chicago November outside.
Her makeup is smudged.
She sees me standing in the dim light of the kitchen and freezes, like a deer caught in headlights. I braced myself for the lie. For the defensive walls to go up. For the accusation that I was waiting up to catch her. But she does the one thing I didn't expect. She sobs. A real sob. The sound is sharp, like broken glass. And she rushes toward me.
Her tears aren't an act, this is pure, animal relief. She grabs onto my apron and whispers that thank God I'm here. Thank God I'm still awake. She starts talking. Fast, rambling, like someone who just walked away from a disaster. She tells me she almost got into an accident. Some idiot in a black Escalade cut her off on Lakeshore Drive. She said she skidded on the wet pavement, almost swerved into oncoming traffic. She says she sat in her car on the shoulder for at least half an hour, just trying to breathe, shaking so hard she couldn't feel her fingers. I nod. I listen. My hands are on her back. I can feel her shaking. She keeps going, saying she didn't want to wake me up. She knew what a tough week I'd had with the health inspection. She drove to the Peninsula. It was on the way. Just to sit in the lobby. She swears she only had a cup of chamomile tea to calm her nerves. She says she lost track of time. She just wanted to pull herself together before she saw me. She looks so guilty. She looks up at me, her eyes wide and wet, waiting for, what? Comfort? Forgiveness for making me worry? I hug her. Tight. I pull her close to me. I breathe in the smell of her hair. She doesn't smell like chamomile. She reeks of Veuve Clicquot champagne. The kind that's $25 a glass at the bar. And it's not her fault that I'm a chef, that I can pick out 1,000 different notes. I can smell that damn, expensive, stranger's sandalwood. It's clinging to her skin. She is lying straight to my face. She isn't scared because of an accident. She's scared because she got caught. And I smile. The warmest, most loving smile I can manage right now. I kiss the top of her head and tell her she scared me. I tell her it's okay, it's over, the only thing that matters is that she's safe. I tell her to go straight to bed, that she must be freezing. I tell her she looks exhausted. I'll bring her a glass of water myself. I didn't get her the water. I stood in the dark kitchen until I heard the bathroom door click shut upstairs. Then I walked softly up to my office, a tiny little room over the kitchen line where I usually fight with invoices. I didn't turn on the light. I just sat in my chair and waited. I waited until I could hear her breathing through the wall, slow and deep. She always fell asleep fast. She thinks I'm just a chef. A creative guy. An artist who stains his aprons and yells at suppliers. She forgot that a chef who keeps a restaurant open for 10 years is 90% businessman. 10% everything else. I opened my laptop. I logged into our corporate American Express account. Her accident was a lie. Her tea was a lie. But lies leave a paper trail. I found the transaction. The Peninsula Hotel. Time, 2:05 a.m. Amount, $240. And the category, bar. Not lobby lounge. Not tea. The itemized detail read, Veuve Clicquot champagne, 2 glasses. And 2 old-fashioned cocktails. 2. She wasn't alone. And they weren't drinking tea. Her lie was so lazy. So sloppy. Like she wasn't even trying. Like I wasn't worth the effort to come up with something better. I closed the laptop. $240. It was an insult, not a crime. I stared into the darkness of the office, at the wall where our first review hangs in a frame. Chicago's golden couple. We were. Once. I was the fire. She was the wind. I invented. I burned. I created dishes that made critics weep. And she fanned that flame. She made the deals. She charmed the investors. She was the face. I was the hands. We were a perfect machine. But everything changed last year. I got the 2nd Michelin star. And I went crazy. I started chasing the 3rd. I became obsessed with perfection. I spent 18 hours a day in the kitchen. I'd argue about the serving temperature of a piece of fish. I'd fire a waiter for mispronouncing the name of a wine. I was feeding 1,000 people a week. But I forgot to have dinner with her. I stopped being a husband. I became a boss. I corrected her press releases as ruthlessly as I corrected a sauce. I managed her, just like I managed the damn pantry. I created an emotional vacuum. I was the Escalade that pushed her to the side of the road. And someone else walked right into that vacuum. His name was Elias. He showed up 3 months ago. Our new investor. He wanted to open a branch of our restaurant in Miami. He was everything I wasn't. I was kitchen heat, sweat, the smell of time. He was smooth, like marble. Perfect suits, perfect teeth, perfect smell. That same sandalwood. He didn't eat food, he evaluated concepts. He didn't talk about taste, he talked about brand potential. I despised him on sight. Anna, she admired him. She looked at him in a way she hadn't looked at me since we got that first review. I saw her laugh at his jokes. I saw how she started to dress differently on the days she had meetings with Elias. I told myself it was business. I told myself she was just doing her job. I was lying to myself just as badly as she was lying to me about the peninsula. That accident, that whole performance, what was it covering up? Not just an affair. Not just a $240 bar tab.
She had been pushing this Miami deal so hard.
I opened the laptop again. The lie about the hotel made me doubt everything else. As a businessman, I should have checked Elias out.
I called Mike, our financial auditor.
I woke him up. I told him it was urgent.
I asked him to run a full background check on Elias and his company, Artis Capital.
I lied and said we were preparing for a major investment. Mike called back an hour later.
His voice was sleepy, but worried. He said this Elias guy was a ghost.
He had no money. His credit rating was trash. He had a trail of lawsuits following him all over Florida.
He said Artis Capital was a shell company, registered to a post office box.
Mike said he didn't understand what kind of deal we were making.
And then he said that wasn't what I should be worried about. He asked me if I was aware that Anna, using her full executive privileges on our operating account, had transferred $250,000 to that exact shell company 2 months ago.
$250,000. I hung up the phone. The cold I'd felt an hour ago turned to solid ice. I stared at the wall. This wasn't an affair. This wasn't a fling. This was a robbery.
The champagne at the peninsula wasn't a date.
It was a toast.
They were celebrating how they'd robbed me blind. I sat in the dark until 5 in the morning.
$250,000. This wasn't just taking money from the register.
This was enough to start a panic with our suppliers.
It was enough to make me miss payroll for my crew.
This was a hole punched straight through the hull of the ship. I thought about her tears.
The way she grabbed onto me an hour ago. That wasn't the fear of being caught in an affair. That was panic.
The panic of someone who had bet everything, and was terrified I had noticed the money was missing before she was ready.
That accident on Lake Shore Drive wasn't a cover story for a romance. It was a performance to explain why she was a wreck. She was afraid I already knew. And I didn't.
I was an idiot, obsessed with getting a 3rd star. I stared at the wall that separated our rooms.
She was sleeping. Soundly. Confident in her lie about tea at the peninsula.
And that $240 bar tab that wasn't a secret date. That was a damned celebration.
They were toasting. Toasting my stupidity. But the money wasn't enough.
If they wanted to open a restaurant in Miami, they needed more than my money.
They needed my brand. My name. I got up and walked quietly into our shared home office. Her personal laptop was on the desk. Closed. I opened it. The login screen. It needed a password.
I tried the password for our joint bank account.
Wrong.
I tried the date the restaurant opened.
Wrong. I typed in our wedding anniversary. Wrong. A paper day planner was lying on her desk.
I turned on the desk lamp, just the light, to its lowest setting.
3 months ago. One date was circled in red marker. Miami. Lunch. Elias. The day he walked into our lives. I typed in the date. 0814. The laptop unlocked.
That hurt more than the hotel.
More than the money. A password is a private thing. It's not just a key to a machine, it's a key to a person's mind.
And she had replaced our past with their future.
I opened her email. I wasn't a husband anymore. I was an auditor, checking my own life for fraud. I found the folder. Miami. Inside were hundreds of emails between her and Elias.
These were not love letters. This was a business plan.
I read
how she described me. She told Elias that Sam was a genius, sure, but he was burned out.
That he was stuck in the last decade. That he was just a cook, a craftsman, who couldn't see the big picture.
She wrote that she had always been the brains of the brand, and I was just the hands. She wasn't just cheating on me.
She despised me. She was writing me off. And then I found the file that made my breathing stop. An attachment. Miami Menu Project Final. I opened it.
They were my dishes. My saffron and bone marrow risotto, a recipe I had spent 5 years perfecting. She had renamed it golden rice. My signature steak tartare. She had added avocado to it.
Avocado.
She turned art into a bar snack. My drunken pear dessert, the one the Tribune critic had called poetry.
She renamed it pear and wine. She wasn't just stealing. She was editing my soul. She was improving me. I found the last email she sent to Elias, just this afternoon.
She wrote that Sam wouldn't suspect a thing. That he was too busy in his kitchen. She wrote that on the 10th, at the restaurant's anniversary party, she was going to announce her retirement from the Chicago project. She'd say it was to focus on family. But it was all a lie, so she could be free to launch their Miami restaurant. She was planning to use the anniversary of my greatest triumph as the stage for her betrayal.
I closed the laptop. The money. The sex. That was ordinary. Forgivable. But this wasn't an affair.
This was erasure.
She didn't just want to leave me. She wanted to become me. I walked quietly back to my kitchen. Dawn was breaking outside.
I looked at the rows of my knives, perfectly sharpened, hanging on the magnetic strip.
I wasn't a husband anymore. I wasn't a businessman. I was a chef.
And there was a rat in my kitchen.
I know what you do with rats. You don't forgive them. You don't talk it out. You exterminate them. And I had exactly 1 week until the anniversary. That week was the longest week of my life. I slept maybe 3 hours a night. By day, I was the chef, all smiles, demanding, getting ready for the biggest event of the year. I checked the tablecloths. I approved the wine list. I tell Anna that yes, honey, I agree, that shade of gray for the napkins is perfect. By night, I was a lawyer. I sat with my real lawyer and my auditor. We tracked every single dollar of that $250,000. We prepared the documents. We froze the account the money had been sent to, flagging it as a fraudulent operation. We prepared the divorce papers. Anna didn't notice a thing. She was too busy, practically packing her bags for Miami. She floated around the restaurant like an angel, giving orders. She was so happy, so excited. She thought this was her moment of triumph. And then, the night arrived. The 10th anniversary of the restaurant. The room was buzzing. 200 guests. All the critics. Every investor I had fed for years. Anna was at the center of the room. She was shining. She was wearing a red dress that cost as much as my first stove. She didn't look like my wife, she looked like a trophy. Elias stood right next to her, just as smooth, in his perfect suit, smelling of sandalwood. They looked like the couple. The hosts of the party. I just looked like the staff. 5 minutes before my toast, Anna came up to me. She straightened my chef's jacket. I always wore it for speeches. She told me I looked a little nervous. She told me not to worry. She said that after tonight, everything would be just perfect. She kissed me on the cheek. The kiss was cold, like stainless steel. It wasn't a kiss. It was a signature on a delivery form. I walked up to the small stage. The spotlight hit my face. The room went quiet. I thanked everyone for coming. I said that 10 years was a huge milestone. I said I was proud of what we had achieved. I could see Anna in the front row, smiling modestly, accepting the applause. And then I said I wasn't there to talk about the past. I was there to talk about the future. I announced that we were moving to the next level. That we were ready to announce our next big project. A restaurant in Miami. I saw Anna and Elias look at each other. Shock. Panic. How did I know?
They thought this was their announcement to make, not mine. I smiled and said that this project would not have been possible without one person.
My brilliant partner. My wife. I asked Anna to please come up on stage with me. The room exploded with applause. She couldn't refuse. She walked toward me, her smile glued in place, but her eyes were terrified. She got on stage. I put my arm around her and hugged her tight. Phone cameras were pointed right at us. And I started whispering in her ear, while everyone clapped. I told her to smile. I told her don't you dare stop smiling. I told her I know about the peninsula. Her smile faltered. She tried to pull away, but I held her like a vice. To the crowd, it just looked like a passionate hug. I told her I know about the $250,000. She stopped breathing. I asked her if she really thought golden rice was a good name for my risotto. All the color drained from her face. She looked at me like she was seeing a ghost. I whispered the ultimatum. I told her that right now, she was going to take the microphone and announce that she was stepping down for a well-deserved rest due to exhaustion. That she was transferring full control of all assets to me. I told her that tomorrow morning, she would sign the divorce papers, giving up everything. In return, I would not call the police right here from the stage and press charges for felony fraud. And that's when she made her mistake. The anger flared up in her. She hissed back in my ear that I wouldn't dare. That I would destroy myself and my brand. That the restaurant was us. She still thought we were in us. I pulled back. I took the microphone. I looked at the crowd with a wide, loving smile. I announced that my wife was so overcome with emotion, she couldn't even speak. And then I looked out into the crowd, right at Elias. I said that we couldn't possibly celebrate this new project without thanking our main investor. I invited Elias to please come up on stage, too. He froze. He knew it was a trap. I said we should all give a round of applause to the man who believed in our brand so much. I kept going. I said I was just about to discuss his contribution of $250,000. I said it loudly. I added that my auditors, sitting right over there at that table, were just a little confused about the wiring. I asked Elias if he could maybe explain to all of us how exactly that money was going to help the Miami project. Elias turned white. He looked at Anna. Then at me. Then at the two large men in suits by the exit, my lawyer and my auditor, who were just getting up from their table. Anna stared at me. Her entire life was collapsing, live, to a round of applause. She realized what I had done. I had cut her off. I had separated her from Elias. I had framed her as a victim of his scam, and myself as the savior of the restaurant. She opened her mouth. And the champagne glass she was holding, with a quiet little chime, slipped right out of her fingers and shattered on the stage. The room went silent. Silence. A dead, hollow silence, where the sound of that breaking glass seemed to echo on forever. 200 people stared at the shards of glass at her feet. I stepped back to the microphone. I smiled, a calm, easy smile, and apologized to our guests for the slight technical issue. I said that my wife, unfortunately, had overtired herself these past few weeks and was just a little overwhelmed. She just needed to rest. I asked the band to please play something quiet. I didn't look at her. I didn't look for Elias. My lawyer, that guest at the exit, quietly walked over to Elias, said something in his ear, and the man, without ever looking up, just evaporated from the room. He wasn't dragged out. He was just erased. The party was dead. The guests left quickly, without saying goodbye, avoiding eye contact. I was left alone in the room. Anna was still standing on the stage, not moving, in her red dress, surrounded by the broken glass. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking at nothing. I turned around and walked back to my kitchen. The next morning, she was sitting in the living room. She hadn't gone to bed.
She was still in that red dress. It looked wrinkled and cheap now. The divorce papers were on the coffee table.
She wasn't crying. She wasn't screaming. She picked up the pen and silently signed everything. She gave up the restaurant. She gave up the apartment. She gave up any claim to my name.
She accepted the $250,000 debt as her personal responsibility. When she was finished, I asked her only one question: why she added avocado to my tartare. She looked up at me, her eyes empty, dead. She said she thought it would sell better in Florida. She genuinely thought she was improving it. She left with a single suitcase.
A week went by. Or maybe a month. I stopped counting.
The restaurant survived.
My crew got their paychecks. I got the money back. I kept the star. I'm standing in the kitchen again. 2 in the morning. The same smell of cool metal and wine. But now, I am truly alone. I'm not sleeping. I'm working. I'm creating a new menu.
I'm trying things I was always afraid to try.
Something complicated, bitter, risky. My phone buzzes in my jacket pocket. I pull it out. A text from Anna.
I haven't seen her name on my screen since that night.
One word. Why?
She wasn't asking why I exposed her.
She wasn't asking why I took everything.
She was asking why I didn't let her win.
I look at the plate in front of me.
At this new, incredible dish I just created.
I pick up my phone. I don't text her back. I just take a picture. A perfect shot.
And I send her the photo.
The reply comes back a second later. She wrote that I always loved the food more than I loved her. I look at her message. I look at my creation. She was right. She thought she was stealing my recipes. She never understood. I am the recipe. I blocked her number.
I picked up a clean spoon.
I tasted what I had made. The balance was perfect. And that's the whole story.
If you like this story and you want to keep hearing more stories just like it, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell, so you don't miss any new episodes. Remember, your support is so important to keep this channel growing.
So, what do you think? Let's be honest.
What's worse, the quiet,
lying theft that Anna pulled, or the total, merciless, public destruction that Sam orchestrated?
He could have just divorced her.
He could have quietly gotten the money back and thrown her out. But he chose theater. He chose humiliation in front of 200 people. So what was it? Was it fair justice for a double betrayal, or was it a cold, narcissistic punishment from a man whose ego was hit harder than his heart? Did Anna ever stand a chance, from the second he unlocked her laptop? And here's the real question: did he destroy her because she stole $250,000, or because she dared to add avocado to his steak tartare? Let me know what you think in the comments.